You.
Welcome, YouTube community. This is ZiggyNo, aka the Sports Card Hunter. I'm going to be putting together this video on both my channels. I have with me special guest BreakComp. This is Nick from BreakComp. Really excited to have Nick on the channel today. Let me just give you a real quick background for everybody before I let Nick talk. I love breaking. I've been in breaking for probably 6 or 7 years. I buy breaks. I've been in all sorts of PYT to random everything. Every time I get into a break, I always go out there and try to start researching on how much does a break cost, who has the best prices. And I started doing that with Prism about a month or two ago, and I came across BreakComp. And I'm like, amen. These guys have finally got it. They're finally doing what I think the hobby needs, and that's a price line slash kayak for the hobby for finding the best prices in sports cards break. And that is why I have BreakComp on here today. So Nick, let me introduce you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about BreakComp?
Sure. How are you doing, Ziggy? Thank you for inviting me on your show today. Very happy to be here. I've been a collector my entire life. Started collecting in 1987 with 87 Topps baseball, trying to chase the Bo Jackson out of packs. Moving through to the 90s with Shaq cards, trying to chase those inserts. Took a break from the hobby around 96, so missed out on a lot of good years, a lot of good inserts. And then got back into the hobby in the early 2000s and have been in it heavily ever since. I started BreakComp. I got the idea just seeing all the price lines, the kayaks out of there, price comparisons, websites for travel. Obviously, I'm a collector into sports cards, so I got the idea to do it for box breaks. So I consider it as the kayak for the sports breaking world.
That's really interesting. Before I ask you about BreakComp, you mentioned a collector of 87. I also remember hearing somebody, you mentioned you were down in Florida. Where in Florida were you collecting as a kid in the 80s? Just curious.
I was on vacation in Florida.
Okay, okay,
It was I think Port St. Lucie.
okay.
We were uh, at spring training visiting Mets and
Because I just had a
Dodgers.
flashback to
Yeah.
1987 baseball. I grew up in Bradenton for a few years, and I remember riding
Oh,
my
nice.
bicycle down to Bradenton, this baseball card store, to do the same thing, chasing those rookie cards. And again, at the time,
Yeah.
you're hearing like, everybody's like, put this away, and you're gonna go to college on these cards.
Yep. Yep. You did hear a lot of that.
You mentioned you saw an opportunity to get into a kayak, price line for breaking. What about other things? I mean, like, for the first thing that comes to my mind is just box prices in general. I know there's another company, Waxstat, that kind of does that.
Mhm.
They focus on that. What made you think breaking needed price visibility, price transparency? Like, were you frustrated by pricing? Were you surprised by pricing? Was there a catalyst to that?
No, honestly, no, not really frustration or anything like that. I just thought there was a need to compare to aggregate all the prices all in one spot, because that I felt there was a need for that and that wasn't being met anywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
How was it?
and obviously with price databases like the market movers, the card ladder, I thought there was a need for a price database in a way for box breaking.
Absolutely green. Let me, you mentioned those two, and you don't
Mhm.
have to necessarily answer this, but how could they not become a competitor? Like, could they not too just start collecting the data? How are you collecting data? I assume it's a manual process where you have to have something go out there and grab data and put it in a spreadsheet and then populate it. But that grabbing of data has got to be very important, and then getting accurate data, at least data that you either are going to scrape yourself or the breaker is going to give to you. Can you talk a little bit about the data collection? Is it been easy or is it hard? Is it are breakers giving the data to you?
Sure, yeah. Unfortunately, I can't go into the full process of
Yep,
it,
yep.
but yeah, I can speak on it a lot. Yeah, we collect data from like social media websites, social selling platforms, websites. Um, I think that's about it. Yeah,
And it's your
and
pro
yeah,
and you're collecting though right now. Like the breakers aren't giving it to you. They're not going out, they post their breaks or hey, let me send a copy to BreakComp.
no, there are a lot of breakers that are very willing to work with me and do provide it in a nice, easy way for us to access. We do have other ways to go about collecting it as well. But yeah, there are a lot of breakers that are helping us out. You probably saw a lot of negative things on social media, perhaps,
Mhm.
for breakers, but overwhelmingly we've had a tremendous response from both breakers and collectors that are buying into breaks.
Yeah, I say so. Some Let me just give you some insights from my side. From talking to the breaking
Sure.
community, what's really interesting to me is that before COVID, breaking pricing was almost like a special secret sauce. Like I remember being in
Mhm.
Facebook groups where they post their prices and they would be furious if someone passed that pricing to any other group. Like you were a rat, right? I mean, and
No.
also they would block out, like as the prices of the teams filled, they would remove the price out there. So the hottest team, you wouldn't know how much it was, only if you were there when you saw it get posted. I mean, it used to be
Mhm.
very, very competitive to the point where I remember for myself, I would screenshot, not that I was sharing other people, but I was screenshotting for myself. I needed to know what these breakers were coming into. I've even spoken to some of those breakers now and asked them about BreakComp, what are their thoughts on it? And it's funny because some of them said, yeah, I guess price transparency is important. I think what I feel like it's really starting to show is that there are a lot of breakers out there who are able to buy the product closer to the source and some that are getting it further from the source. And that's why they have a lot higher overhead, a lot higher markups. What I was shocked early on was that Leighton Sports Cards was one of the people who did not like that you were posting break information. Have they changed their stance with you at all? Are they more open to that or not?
Yes, they are more open to that. I received a DM from him, from Rich, maybe a week or two ago, and yeah, he is more open to that now.
I mean, that's good to hear because I'll say Rich
Mhm.
used to be the bar back in, I'd say 16, 17, where he did post
Uh-huh.
his pricing first and other breakers followed that. Mojo Breaks another one I use, and they have been the bar lately where they have been posting publicly, and I think they communicate with you. To the breakers out there,
Mhm.
I want to say to you, I beg you to be more proactive about this. One thing that I
Mhm.
think would be beneficial for the community is breakers should want to publish out their pricing, and not on all products. I understand they do a lot of products, but maybe on their premier products they should proactively publish it out. They're getting free advertising by using that with you, sending it
Agreed.
out to you. Second thing is, and I'd recommend them do this as well, publish out your hits. There was a
Mhm.
conversation the other night with, I think another breaker was talking about you on Jeremy Lee's channel, which I think great show on Jeremy Lee. And I think he had
Yes,
Filth Bomb talking about BreakComp. And the topic of
yes,
hit tracking
I
came
did
up.
hear that.
Again, all breakers want to brag about what their hits are and what they're pulling and what they're doing. I recommend, look, as a breaker, send out your pricing to BreakComp and send out maybe your top hits of the night. For BreakComp, if there's a way that you could publish that or create that as a feed, and then what I'd
Mhm.
recommend is even track those hits. So for example, as a consumer of the product, when I go out to chase a product, I want to know how many of the gold cards are hit. I'm looking to see on the superfractor counter on IG, superfractors hit. There's so many silo places for it, but it would be great. And the breakers have this data. You have the hit information. Share that with your pricing information. You're getting free advertisement up to BreakComp, and and it's making the community better. Um, I also think at a point you could sell that data, right? It could be a subscription where
Mhm.
I don't know what you would call me. It's funny. I call myself a breaker because I buy the breaks, but that's not what they call us.
Yeah.
We're the suckers. They call us suckers, right? The guys who buy in the breaks. When I buy into the break, I would be willing to pay for information that would tell me accurately hits that are in products. Another thing, breakers and for the community, I would also pay for skunk information. And I don't mean to blow anybody away with this, but breakers, you don't do anything but open the box. You don't really have an impact on what's in the box. But me knowing what's in the box is important to my decision buying and process. If you've gone 3 cases with no Texans in it, I'm very likely to buy the Texans in the next box. And I'll also say this too. I know that you breakers will adjust your pricing for that as well, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity for them to share
Mhm.
their initial pricing information and some hit tracking information. And again, that makes the hobby better. Filthbomb even said, and I don't think this would ever happen. He said this would allow breakers to adjust their pricing downward as big hits get pulled, right? I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. Okay, I'm not going that far, but again, I do
Right.
think this visibility is good for the community. Um, I want to ask you a question on um, where do you see this going in the future? I know you've started breaking out more than just the prices. Like I saw that there's more data on the team prices now. You've been
Right.
doing on Break
Uh-huh.
Card Comp. Can you talk about that and where that's going?
Sure. Yeah, we started tracking price data on a little bit more aggressively on team data as far as what percentage like the Texans are in the overall break, whether it be like 25% of the break cost of the aggregate break cost that the breakers are charging, or is it 10%? And we're also monitoring fluctuation up and down with pricing between reports that we put out.
And this is great. I mean, this is one thing I saw you guys do. Is I love this. And this for the audience,
Yeah.
let me explain this. I was kind of doing this myself because when I buy into a break, there's a logic to this. I'm thinking to myself, look, do I want to pay for a full case of product, or do I just want to get the best teams that have the hits that I'm chasing in that product? Which is often like I'll go after the Texans, and I will create a ratio. How much is the Texan spot versus the case? If it's 90%, I might as well buy the case. And I saw that with Victor Wembanyama, right? At the first cases of the blasters coming out, you were spending $300 to buy, into 10 boxes of the product, which is the $350 of product. So you're spending about, 75%. That made no sense. So having that data is still important. It also lets you see how breakers, um, maybe the Texans are high on their break, but there's an opportunity for the Rams. You see what I'm saying? You can see team value more than just seeing,
Right.
oh, one
Team to
breaker's
team
cheap.
comparisons.
In fact, another thing I want to mention too, I do think these decisions on when you buy into breaks, right? And I think this is something that you guys could do as far as educating the community is
Mhm.
mathematical. It's based on statistics. It's not based on the breaker. Okay. I know the breakers want to think that they have magic hands and they pull these cards, but it's really based on math. And the more they can give you that math breakdown on the team, the value of the team, the better it is for the community and for me as an individual getting in that break. I just can't stress that enough. So I'm hoping that breakers are seeing that value of sharing that data as well. Like I'd love for them to share their PYT data with you, and publish that as well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of breakers are tremendous and really working with us to get that data over to us, and that yeah, the free advertising for them, and it really helps us out as well.
One of the criticisms of that I heard from one of the breakers was he felt
Uh-huh.
like, not all breakers are equal. And I know there's some things like trust and their value in the community, how long they've been
Mhm.
around. Are you ever concerned about a breaker that's kind of you've never heard of before, sending out really cheap pricing? And do you publish, like, do you do anything to vet the breaker? Like, could I open a breaker tomorrow and send you pricing on breaks? Would you publish that? Or do you see where I'm getting with that?
Absolutely. We vet the breakers before publishing them, whether it be like on a social selling platform, we can
Okay.
check out feedback. There's just different many different ways to vet a breaker to protect to try to protect us and the consumer as well. To answer your question, no, we probably wouldn't price that on somebody just willing or just first time breaker posting data. We would, you know, they'd have to establish a history before we're posting pricing on them.
I think
And
that's great. That's great.
yeah, something else we started doing, kind of a change that we made is like before we left the pricing up until we stopped tracking the product, whether the breaker had product to break or not. That's not the case anymore. When we do our updates, we only post pricing for breakers that actually have the product and are still breaking it, because the product
Excellent. Yep.
or product pricing can fluctuate a good deal as a lot of products get opened. Um, some buyers are purchasing it on the secondary market, which will also cause them to raise prices as well. So um, I think that's a great change that we made, and we've listened to feedback on that to make that change.
Would they,
I'm always willing to listen to feedback, whether it be data to track or just any thoughts that you may have overall from anybody. And Ziggy, I thank you for sharing your feedback as well.
would you consider them giving you a number of cases, right? So I could say, hey, here's my price for the Texans. I've got 5 cases available. Would they do that? Is that
I don't know. I know
okay?
some would definitely, but they have been good about telling me not how many cases they have, but if they're down to the last case or something like that on their last break, yeah, they're very good about that.
Another thing I'd recommend, I saw somebody try to do this back in the boom. they could
Sure.
use you to sell empty spots or spots that aren't filling, right? So I've got a break. I've
Mhm.
got these teams available. They're discounted. I send a stream it to you. You could post that out. Here are the breaks that are available this afternoon. Here are the breaks that are available this day. Cross-platform,
Uh-huh.
right? Because some of these breakers are on different platforms. It's
Sure.
because when you go back to pricing, here's another thing I'll say about pricing. I don't buy my breaks because I'm looking for the cheapest break. I'm looking at the breakers to see where they are so I can make better informed decisions. I also know that breakers will discount, right? Just because a breaker publishes at $500 per team, when it gets closer to the break, that team often gets discounted. We see that happen all the time, right? So I'm not as picky about the
Sure.
pricing accuracy. It's about getting that barometer. And I think, again, if breakers realize they can use it's a two-way communication, share your information, and like I said, sell through you empty spots, you guys could probably take a commission off that. It helps, you know, I would feel more confident about going to any breaker I know is working with BreakComp, right? Because I almost feel like there's been some vetting. They're in business with you, they're sharing information. That opens the breaking community for me, and I think makes breaking better. I hope platforms like Fanatics Live, have they or any other platform looked at you guys or connected with you guys at all? Is that even on the radar? I mean, Whatnot or any of these platforms?
No,
Nope.
not at this point. They
Yep.
they haven't, and I'm kind of waiting till we get built up and get a little bit
Yep.
bigger to reach out to them to see what possibilities we can do with them, because there are a lot. I have a lot of ideas in mind through technology of things that we could possibly do together if we could all work together and I think make
Yeah.
it better. I'm not going to share those ideas at
Yeah.
this time or anything,
Yep.
but yeah, I have some big ideas in mind.
Well, right there, two things that I think they would want to see: hit tracking, right? Because then they could say,
Mhm.
"Hey, my platform, look at all the hits that we're getting on Whatnot," right? And again, selling of those empty break spots, right? If I'm on
Yes,
Loop, I don't
absolutely.
care if I have to go over to Fanatics Live and I get to work with Phil Baum and jump in his break over there. I mean, again, I think that that's an important thing. Another thing I'd recommend, I'm gonna close on as we kind of bring this to a conclusion, if you could be a place for people to learn about breaking in the future, maybe the
Uh-huh.
breakers and you come together and go, hey, let's put some educational videos, right? Every breaker seems to have their own video on what breaking is supposed to be. But if I go to BreakComp and see, hey, what is a break? Why are there cameras on? Why are there two cameras? What is a case break? What is a box break? I think that'd be a great thing the breaker community could use, because then they could say, hey, look, instead of coming to my webpage and just listen to me tell you about breaks, go to BreakComp, learn about breaking, learn about here's what breaking's involved. Here's what you're doing in these scenarios. What is a random team? I'd love to see that, because right now there isn't much education on breaking in the community. Now, again, I think for you guys, it brings views, it brings users, maybe subscribers, and
Uh-huh.
I think it could just again help the whole community. So with
Yeah,
that,
I agree. I'd love if any breakers have that info, I'd love to be able to post that for them and to get that education out to the collectors. And for the collectors out there, just to let you know, BreakComp is free to use
yep.
and it's free for breakers as well. So everybody is gating by using our platform.
And again, your revenue source right now is through advertising, correct? So if there's anybody out there
Yeah,
listening who wants to advertise,
yeah.
I strongly recommend it. Like, for example, I think you should be giving discounts. You should send, if you're a new breaker, you should, hey, check out my new breaks. Here's a coupon code. Put it on BreakComp. I just think there's so many opportunities like I said, a user, when I see your Instagrams, I try to put a like up there. If there's anything I can do to help promote it or use it,
Mhm.
like I said, I love what you guys are doing. It helps me make decisions. And I hope more and more people in the community start to embrace and do it, use BreakComp.
Yeah, that would be very helpful to us for everybody to get our name out there and to share with as many individuals as possible. And I thank you for what you're doing, Ziggy. I appreciate it.
Well, again, I appreciate your time, Nick. I really do. Like I said, we'll stay in touch. And the audience, like I said, I do encourage you, please check out BreakComp. If you have questions, reach out to me, reach out to the breakers. Breakers, if you're listening, I hope this makes sense. Put some feedback, reach out to Nick. Let's make this
Absolutely.
hobby a better place. Breaking is very important. And again, very, very, very pro breaking. So thank you very much, Nick.
Sure. Yeah. One last thing. BreakComp.com is the website. Social media handles. I'm on Instagram. That's where have the most followers. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter/X at BreakComp Cards.
Cards. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, sir. I'll definitely leave links for that. Appreciate it. Have a great day, Nick. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ziggy.